You've got to build an operation where everything can go everywhere. That is the way to make sure that you're getting the most value possible out of your content. I see far too many people keep their content focused on one platform only. But if you can build a smooth operating repurpose engine, you can 10x your business and maximize the value that you're getting out of one piece of content. A lot of people talk about pillar content. I talk about signature content. The ideas are roughly the same. You take one piece of content that you focus on in particular, and then you squeeze as much juice out of it as you possibly can by getting it into as many other formats as possible and as many other platforms as possible. I'll share with you now my foolproof method for content repurposing. It's personal to me. It may not work for you, but I hope it does, or at least it gives you some ideas about what you can do to get your content into other places and reach a new audience, build your traffic, and build the beginning stages of your funnel. I typically start with one full-length conversation that I record on video, typically via Zoom. I have those conversations automatically transcribed through Otter by recording through Zoom into the cloud. I then often also live stream those conversations onto platforms like YouTube and Facebook. Instagram is also great. TikTok is also great to maximize the number of people who can connect with me live during those conversations. So it's one conversation with one person. It might alternatively be a webinar or a class of some kind that I'm conducting for a live audience in Zoom, but it's also going out to different social platforms as well simultaneously. The conversation is being recorded. I'm then having my video editor cut those conversations into shorter clips, sometimes under 1 minute for TikTok and Instagram feed, sometimes under 220 for Twitter, other times under 10 minutes for LinkedIn. I typically tell my team to just clip it whatever makes sense. I don't ask them to optimize for a certain platform because I'm creating enough material that I will inevitably get enough clips under 1 minute for different platforms that require that length. I get under 220 enough of those for Twitter and such, but you may want to optimize for a certain length in case you need more material for that particular platform. So I've got full-length recording, I've got clips, I've got transcriptions, I've got live streams, different formats, different mediums, different platforms. I'm then also having my team strip out the audio from those recordings. You can even just Google YouTube to MP3 and find some free tools that will do that for you. And then I take those MP3s, I have them uploaded to my podcast hosting platform. I personally use Libsyn, but you can use any other platform. Anchor is a good free one you can use. And so I'm getting the podcast recording going out as well to that particular platform. I mentioned transcriptions earlier via Otter. I'll come back to that now. The idea is that the transcriptions can form the basis for ebooks or articles or emails or blog posts. Possibilities are endless. It's really up to you. I have members of my team go through my transcriptions and handpick certain pieces to edit for potential reuse in those different places. My goal and what I tell them is that every single recording, every single conversation should be maximized in terms of what it can do. So every email also becomes a blog post, also becomes a segment of a future ebook that will then be later organized and edited in a particular order. Quotes will be taken out of those conversations after they've been edited for quote images on sites like Instagram and Twitter. So the quotes can go out directly to Twitter, but then I'll have quote images created using a service like Canva to make them look nice and pretty for places like Facebook and Instagram. Those same emails and blog posts can also become text-based posts on sites like Facebook and LinkedIn that allow it. Twitter also allows text, but you've got to make it a bit shorter for the constraints of the 280 characters for the limit for that platform. So you got to figure out what works, but those are a few options there. Let's see what else. What else? I think that pretty much covers the basics for how I would go about this, but there are more ways you can go about it. Of course, there are also more things you can do. You can post your videos to sites like Facebook pages, Facebook groups, LinkedIn as well. Tons of options out there. One more thing I would say is that if you're not recording with video as your starting point, you could take your podcast episode and turn it into an audiogram for anything where you didn't happen to be able to record with video. So this method I'm outlining for you here, I personally use video as a starting point. But if you prefer to use audio as your starting point, if you don't record with video on, you just want the audio, that's fine. You can still do the audiograms. You can still do the podcast. You can still get the transcriptions as well. And then later down the line, you could potentially have someone create something for people to look at like an animation of some kind to go along with your audio only recording. I see a lot of big YouTubers doing that. So you don't have to be up here on camera. Don't assume that's an obligation. I do think it's a lot easier though to simply record with your video on than to hire an animation expert, but do whatever works for your particular situation. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Any questions, any comments, reach out. I'm happy to help.